What are the main issues of your campaign platform that you
Well,
want to address if elected as a delegate?
well, the main issue, I agree with President Biden that the main issue is COVID-19. It's still with us, and we went through a tough 2 years. It may not be over yet. Let's hope it is. But we have to learn our lessons. We have to be prepared for something like this to happen again. We, in Maryland, the state government did a pretty good job. I think the federal government dropped the ball in a number of ways. But we really can't address our other issues until COVID is taken care of. Public health is very, very important. And what we need to do now is, I just got a message saying my internet connection is unstable. So put it in the chat or signal to me if I freeze up.
It happened briefly, probably a couple of times, but the message was still clear. If
Okay.
it happens, I will ask you to probably repeat the last sentence or so.
Okay. Yeah, so without going over what was done in the past, we have to learn for the future. There's going to be a lot of money coming. The state still has money for COVID relief, and there's going to be more money coming from the federal government under the infrastructure bill. I would advocate using as much of those resources as possible, first of all, in our schools, so that our schools don't become petri dishes for the spread of airborne infectious diseases. Schools, they're large groups of people, they're enclosed all day long. And when something like COVID comes along, they can really be the nexus for the spread of a disease like that. So the schools have to be upgraded. New schools, when they're built, have to have proper ventilation and plenty of space for social distancing. Secondly, the schools have to be ready, if necessary, to switch over to virtual learning again. I give plenty of credit to our school systems and to the teachers and support staff, and also to parents for adapting to virtual learning quickly. But virtual learning, going to school online is very, very different than going to school in a classroom, both for the students and for the teachers. It requires different equipment, obviously, and different methods that the teachers didn't necessarily learn when they were in college studying to become teachers. So we have to be ready on short notice to switch to virtual learning. One of the things that we found out during the pandemic is that, when we switch to virtual learning, not all students have access to high-speed internet in their homes, or even access to a computer, maybe. The way I see it, we can move to a model where computers can be lent to the students. They still belong to the school, but they're lent to the students to be used at home when need be. And the model is, if you're in a high school band and you decide to play the trombone in the high school band, the school gives you a trombone. The trombone still belongs to the school, but you take it home and you practice with it. And when you graduate, you bring the trombone back, or at the end of the school year. We could do that with laptop computers for the students, and possibly have an option for the parents to buy as they're replaced every few years by the older ones. That's very necessary. And also, access to high-speed internet. It's a utility. As President Obama said, it's not an option. It's something that you need. It's like a telephone, water, or electric. It's a public utility nowadays, and everyone should have access to it. So there's a lot we can do there to prepare in case there's COVID or something like COVID again in the future. And I would point out, this is a topic that means a lot to me, because my own mother died of COVID-19. She was in a nursing home, and COVID broke out in March. She died in December of that year. So we're lucky that we had an extra, 9 months with her. During those 9 months, I saw her 6 times. 3 times were for doctor's appointments, and 3 times were when they briefly opened up that September, and she was allowed to visit her once a week for a half hour. But a lot of people weren't that fortunate. It swept through the nursing homes like wildfire. And eventually, when it hit her, the nursing home she was in, they lost a lot of their residents. What really disturbs me, I have no sympathy for these no mask, no vaccine people. I think that they have reneged on their civic duty. They talk about their freedom, to not have a vaccine or not wear a mask. The point is, living in a free society is more than just freedom. It comes with responsibility also. And those people just did not live up to their civic responsibilities to help protect the country. And I'll give you a comparison. How many Americans died in the Second World War? Do you know? Anybody want to put it in the
How
chat?
many Americans died in World War II?
Yes.
No.
418,000. That's it. 418,000 over a period of 3 years, more than 3 years. COVID took 1 million American lives in 2 years. Okay. This was our World War II moment. And these no mask, no vaccine people didn't step up to defend the country. It's a question of defending the country, and then they just refused to do it. What really disturbs me is when I see the governors of Texas and Florida say that it's not their responsibility to protect their people from COVID, and actually use their powers as governor to prevent private companies and local school boards from issuing mask mandates or requiring vaccines to protect their people. Protecting the people is the reason why we have government at all. I'm a Hobbesian, meaning I sort of believe in the teachings of the philosopher Thomas Hobbes, who said, without government, life would just be chaos. We'd all be at each other's throats all the time, in a constant state of war. And the reason we have government is to protect us so that we don't have to spend all day long fighting off our neighbors from our food supply. And, what I see these governors doing is just, shirking their responsibility to protect their people. If I'm in the state legislature, I'm going to make sure that the governor of Maryland has the authorities he or she needs to protect the public health, and make sure that he or she uses those authorities, which, they can do. The state is empowered to take drastic measures to protect the public health. So that's sort of my first issue. Stop me if I rattle on too long. The second issue is I'm very concerned with worker rights. When I was with the Department of State, I was a labor officer. When I negotiated free trade agreements, I was on the worker rights team of the delegation. So I'm very familiar with these issues. And I think that there's an awareness since the recession of 2008 of income inequality in this country, great income inequality, and a desire to do something about it. I think now that the economy and the workplace is restructuring after the pandemic, and with a very low unemployment rate, lowest in 40 years of 3.6%, now is the time to not just defend worker rights, but to expand worker rights and to promote them. I was in a forum where they asked, what I think about the minimum wage, what I think the minimum wage should be. And my answer was, we shouldn't need minimum wage laws. We shouldn't have the state telling employers how much they have to pay. If workers had collective bargaining and they could negotiate their own wages, no one knows a job as well as the person who does it. And workers are not going to drive their own enterprise out of business. They know what their employers can afford. They know what they need. And that should be, rather than the state setting minimum wage laws, workers should be able to freely negotiate the terms and conditions of work with their employers. So that set of issues and those types of issues are of great concern to me.